Hi everybody, welcome to Cooking with Chef Vicky. Today I'm going to teach you how to properly cut an onion. There is a way, and it's not in your hands like this. So let's get to it. The first thing you should do in order to minimize the amount of gas that the onion releases, I'm going to go ahead and cut the sides like this. And I don't throw this away. I actually, in our restaurant and also at my house, we keep them and we do vegetable broth with them. All the tips, all the heads and butts, we literally keep everything and make vegetable broth. So these are not to be thrown away. In our island culture, we either use the tips for vegetable broth or we use them to create something called epis. In the Hispanic culture, they call it sofrito. So we use it to marinate every meat or anything that we're using. We'll take the tips, green onions, anything that we would throw away, and we would put it in a blender with some garlic and make it a batch of epis. And I'm going to show you two different cuts. I'll show you dicing and I'll show you what we call in the French culinary term julienne, which is little fries of onions, I could say, so you could relate to what I'm saying. We call it bâtonnet, we call it julienne, so those are fancy words to call it strip. Don't let the French fool you. There's a purpose to a madness. All right, the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is julienne. Go ahead and grab my knife and just peel it. Sometimes these onions can be very stubborn. Onions are anti-inflammatory. Growing up, if we had the flu or we had a cough, by all means you should check with your doctor, but for me, we grew up having onion syrup. And yes, your breath, it's another question, but onion syrup would help us with any bronchitis or anything that we were experiencing when it came from breathing. With my kids, fast forwarding to me having kids, I would take the onion, put it in a bowl, cover it, puncture little holes in it, and put it in a closet so that they could pull all the allergen in the room, and that helped with the breathing situation because I had asthma and my son also has asthma. So let's go ahead. I'm going to give you julienne. So your fingers should always be away from the knife. So you should fold it like this, just so that it's against the knife. But if it was like in the way of the knife, you would run a chance of cutting your fingers. There you go. So in culinary school, one of the things we learned to loosen our wrist a little bit. And the first day of school, this is what we learned. If you want to get comfortable with your knife, this is what you do. You have to practice. The more you practice in the kitchen, the better you get at it. And this is how we cut juliennes. Notice that my hand is actually moving the knife. It's controlling the knife. And my cutting board is not shaking either. So when we get to that point, we pull it, we push it down, and we keep going. This is julienne. You could make it small or thin, depends on what you are doing. In fine dining, these cuts matters for us because it makes the food look very appealing. And it would make no sense if in a sauce you had julienne and you had dice. So you have to make a decision. Which one do you want? Are you the julienne type or are you the dicing type? So now for dicing, let me pick this beautiful onion piece right here. I'm going to make some slits right here. And you could go 1/8, 1/16, you know, it all depends. Then I take the palm of my hand and I keep it open like this, cut it in half. I want to tighten it up a little bit. Just make sure your fingers are away from it. And you go across. And this is dicing. And it's all uniform, or somewhat. When you get to this point, then you go like this. And I could freestyle it. If it's something that has to be more precise, then I'll continue that way. But sometimes the tips are very very hard to get to. Right now I'm starting to cry a little bit, so I'm going to take my onions, put it in a bowl, get it out of the way, and I'm gonna show you a trick that will stop the gas from releasing. And it's as simple as grabbing a piece of paper towel, okay, wetting it a little bit, and putting it on top of your bowl while you continue cutting your onions, and it will stop it from releasing in the air. Till next time, keep it unique, fresh, and tasty.